Good afternoon and welcome. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council work session on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 4 p.m. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Jenny Koch. Here. Michelle Lynn.
Here.
Jim Dolan.
Jim Dolan here.
You. Cameron Moses.
Here.
Nancy Campbell.
Here.
Vice Mayor David Diaz.
Here.
Mayor Kashigi.
Here. Thank you. Item 4 is our public hearing. Item 4.1 is discussion regarding Go Lake Havasu. I'll turn it over to you, Vice Mayor Diaz. You requested this item for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everyone for showing up. So we just wanted to have a discussion regarding Go Lake Havasu as a work session so we can hear from the public also and hear from the council members and just to talk about the kind of a revolving door of CEOs we've had recently and also some staffing and just have an update from Go Lake Havasu, from the city attorney on the contract, on the funding. And then we want to get some feedback from the citizens. So we are not against tourism. I'm certainly not against tourism. So I want to nip that in the bud. I just want to make sure that we're spending taxpayer dollars wisely and that we want to hear from the public. And that's what we're here for today. Very simple. We want to give the time for the people to talk. So whoever's presenting, I'd like you to keep it short and to the point. So we want to make sure we have enough time. We have to probably be done by 5:20. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Diaz. Yeah, so kind of in order of business, we'll have an update from our city attorney about the history of the tourism tax and tourism dollars. We'll then have an update from the board and Go Lake Havasu, and then we'll hear from the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, and we'll open up public hearings. So that's kind of the layout. The reason that we're pressed up against time is we do have a council meeting that starts at 5:30 p.m., but we'll try to ensure we get everyone that wants to engage in this process engaged. So start with you, Ms. Gary.
Good evening, afternoon. Mayor and Council, wait for the PowerPoint to come up real quick. I'm going to give a really quick history overview of Go Lake Havasu. It's been known by many names throughout the decades. And so as we go through, you'll see different references to the Visitor and Convention Bureau, VCB, or LHTB, the Lake Havasu Tourism Bureau, CVB, and now Go Lake Havasu. Whatever it was called at the time is what I reference in my materials, but they're all the same thing. We're going to start in the 1980s. For reference, the city incorporated as a city officially in 1978. Early in the 1980s, a bunch of hotel owners got together, approached council with this great idea of taxing transient occupancy for the purpose of promoting tourism. In 1981, the city council adopted an ordinance that imposed a 3% transient rental tax, which is called the bed tax for short. That was for the promotion, development, enhancement of tourism industry and worthwhile community project. There was a lot of discussion that occurred in the early 1980s about the disbursement of these funds. There were two organizations that were vying for providing these services, which was the Chamber of Commerce and the Sun and River of the Sun Visitor and Convention Bureau. They finally merged together, and the CVB or the VCB became a division of the Chamber. And then in 1984, the city entered into its first agreement for the promotion, development, and enhancement of tourism with the Chamber of Commerce. Now, the way that this contract worked is that every year following the budget process, the city would then enter into an amendment or an exhibit or an addendum to the master agreement that set forth the amount that was going to be expended for tourism that following year. That continued until about 1994. So that agreement with the chamber. There was a bed tax committee. There were a lot of discussions at this time going on with council and different committees. And so the council came back in 1986 based on the bed tax committee recommendations and revised the purpose of the bed tax. And now it was then the promotion and advertisement of the city, maintenance of the London Bridge, economic and industrial development, cost of administration of the instant tax, and such miscellaneous activities as the city council finds in the best interest of promoting Lake Havasu City and its continued growth. I point out in 1987, there was a repeal of the tax code and it was completely rewritten. I point this out because some of the sections and names of taxes change over the decades as well. And the reason is just because the tax code is being updated and amended. And so if you're doing your own research looking at this, you can see that not everything lines up perfectly. And so I'm just pointing this out. Again, in 1993, there were some major amendments to bring our tax code in compliance with the Model City Tax Code. So once again, you're going to see section numbers and names of things that don't quite line up. And so I'm just kind of pointing that out there for historical purposes. We're going to jump way ahead to 1995. It's important to note that in the summer of 1994, we had fecal coliform outbreaks in Lake Havasu City, which resulted in the closure of several of our beaches for extended periods of time that summer. This caused a whole lot of conversation in the community and before the council on what they were going to do to kind of rebuild tourism after that devastating event. So you see a lot of activity in the beginning of 1995 with the city looking to hire some public relations firms. And a lot of their advice to the city council was to up its game as far as tourism. So in 1995, Chamber gave a big presentation to the council in March. And part of that was to kind of beef up the Visitor and Convention Bureau. And this was the first time that it was also introduced of increasing taxes. And so they gave a couple different possibilities of maybe a 1/4 increase in sales tax or using the 3% bed tax and including the 2% restaurant and bar tax. So later on that year, so in November of 95, the agreement for the promotion, development, and enhancement of the tourism industry went now to the VCB, which became its own standalone organization. Worked the same way as the agreement with the chamber. Every year there was an addendum that outlined how much money was apportioned through the budget process to them. Okay, 1996. This is the time, now council is taking all of the suggestions that came about in 1995 from the different firms and businesses and organizations in the city. 2 ordinances were adopted. 1 increased the restaurant and bar tax from 2 to 3% and designated that additional 1% to be used for the sole purpose of promoting tourism and economic development of the city. And a second ordinance that designated the use of the 3% transit occupancy tax or the bed tax for the sole purpose of promoting tourism and economic development of the city. So these 2 purposes are what stand today. There has not been an ordinance since that time that amends those 2 purposes. So that's important to note for 1996 in these 2 ordinances. Some of the discussions that were taking place at the time with the city council on the specifics that they were looking to promote was economic and development efforts, hiring a special events coordinator, hiring an advertising agency to promote tourism, and offset costs associated with providing law enforcement and fire services attributed to tourism. It's important to note that tourism, that additional 1% of the restaurant and bar tax and the 3% bed tax was known and referred to as the Tourism and Economic Development Tax Fund. So you're going to see that also in the materials. Okay, that continued all the way up until 2002. In 2002, we had a funding mechanism change. So it went from a fixed percentage, or it changed to a fixed percentage. So 75% of that Tourism Economic Development Tax Fund went to the Tourism Bureau, and 25% went to the Partnership for Economic Development. Later that year, you'll see an addendum to the agreement with now Lake Havasu Tourism Bureau that shows that 75% of those collections. I'll note here later in 2009, a ballot measure went to the voters to increase the bed tax from 3 to 4%, but that measure was deemed failed. That continues all the way until 2021. 2021, we again had a funding mechanism change. It went from the percentage, the 75-25, to more of a performance-based fixed agreement. So in 2001, we entered into a funding agreement with Go Lake Havasu that had fixed monthly payments of $133,333.33. And that leads us to our current agreement, which was signed in 2003, same monthly installments, and that term is good until June 30th, 2029. That's it.
Yeah, Ms. Carey, that
real quick.
Yeah, it was 2021 was when the funding mechanism changed, and then the current agreement is 2029. I think we were using 2003.
I'm sorry.
But I think 2021, and then
2002 was the first, or the early 2000s was the first mechanism change, and then 2021 was the second mechanism change.
Thank you. Yeah, Vice Mayor Diaz.
Just for clarification, thank you for that speed date. That was good. But there was no ballot initiative until 2009. Prior to that, this funding mechanism was all just a city ordinance.
Yep, they were all the increase and the taxes were all adopted by ordinances by the city council.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll turn it over to Go Lake Havasu if Go Lake Havasu would like to make their presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Gallo, and I serve as the chair of the Go Lake Havasu Board of Directors. I want to thank Vice Mayor David Diaz for organizing today's work session and for the opportunity to provide clarity and transparency regarding the Bureau and its leadership. Today, our executive team will provide background on the board, our qualifications to serve, and the steps that have been taken to strengthen governance and oversight over the past 2 years. We welcome questions, and anyone can reach out to any member of our board or to our city council liaison, Vice Mayor David Diaz. Our board meetings are open to the public, and the minutes are posted on golakehavasu.com. Some of the topics of our executive team will discuss today relate to items that were identified and addressed prior to the hiring of our CEO, Sean, in December of 2024. I would like to briefly share my professional background in hospitality. It began in 1999 in Torrance, California. I have held such titles as Assistant General Manager, Hotel Manager, Area Manager, and Task Force Manager. I have worked for limited service and full service hotels, and I have worked with corporate travel market and with the leisure group market. In July of 2006, I moved to Lake Havasu on a 2-year contract to be the general manager of the Havasu Inn and branded to what we now know as the Days Inn. Shortly after moving to Lake Havasu with my husband, we fell in love with Havasu and decided we would not go back to California. The fact that we would work while we lived on vacation was amazing. We also felt welcomed by the community. Everyone we encountered were so nice, and we planned to raise our family here and purchase our first home, and that is exactly what we did. As someone new to Lake Havasu at the time, I knew the best way to understand the local market and community was to get involved. I sought out the local Chamber of Commerce, attended their mixers, became a chamber ambassador, and was elected to the board of directors from the years of 2009 to 2015. I also graduated from Havasu Leadership Development in 2010, now known as Leadership Lake Havasu. In November 2011, I was ready to expand my hospitality experience by working for a full-service resort property. I was hired as the hotel manager and director of guest experience for London Bridge Resort and promoted to assistant general manager in 2018. After a 4-year hiatus from volunteering as a chamber director, I thought I was in a place where I could donate my time again. With my hospitality background, I thought it would be best for me to serve on the Go Lake Havasu Board of Directors. I was elected to the board in 2019. While serving on the board, I was elected to the executive team in early 2024. I applied for the chair for the fiscal year of 24-25 and was elected. I was tasked to help find our new CEO. And like any organization, there are opportunities to strengthen processes and governance. And the work has been a priority for the board. We were fortunate to enlist Lisa Kruger's help as an interim CEO during the search process, and I'm proud to serve alongside a board of dedicated community leaders who volunteer their time to support the continued growth and success of Lake Havasu City. I would like to introduce our Vice Chair, Janine Samp, who will tell you about how the nominating committee came to life.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Janine Samp, and I serve as the Vice Chair of the Go Lake Havasu Board of Directors. In 2022, I chose to volunteer for the board and was elected to serve by the board members. After serving for a couple of years, I applied and was elected to serve as the Vice Chair, to serve on the board as the Vice Chair. Before I go any further, I think it's helpful to have a little bit about my background and who I am. I moved here in 1979 with my mom and dad at the age of 11. Lake Havasu City is my hometown. I moved away in 1989 to pursue a career in the hospitality industry. For 22 years, I worked for some of the best hotel and casino companies in the world. Mirage Resorts, the Golden Nugget in Treasure Island, the Venetian Resort Hotel and Casino, Hyatt Gaming Services, which was a corporate division for Hyatt Hotels. I have held positions as casino marketing manager, director of casino marketing services, corporate vice president of casino marketing operations, and principal and owner for my own consulting firm. I have opened 5 hotels and casinos. Treasure Island, the Venetian, Black Hawk by Hyatt, Niagara Falls View, and Hollywood Bay St. Louis. I have held gaming licenses to work in those casinos in the states of Nevada, Colorado, Indiana, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, Niagara Falls, Canada, Macau, China, and Mendoza, Argentina. In 2010, I came home to a reunion and reconnected with a childhood friend who is today my husband. Our match was just not personal. It was a perfect match professionally. My husband, Kenny Samp, opened our business, Sunset Charter and Tour Company, in 2007. His vision was to share the beauty of Lake Havasu and the history and keep the history alive of Lake Havasu by doing boat tours. His vision and my hospitality background, we knew that we could actually create something special. And so in 2011, I moved home. Today, we operate one of the few U.S. Coast Guard inspected boat tour companies, and we have 2 vessels on the water, and we operate daily with 5 unique boat tours and excursions. For 19 years, we have shared the Lake Havasu with thousands of visitors and locals alike. For 13 consecutive years, we have been honored to receive the Traveler's Choice Award, and we are the #1 outdoor activity on TripAdvisor. We have been honored to receive various awards, including in 2025, the Ethics in Business Award from the Chamber of Commerce. My experience gives me a unique perspective to serve our community on the Go Lake Havasu board. As our chair expressed, there was a need for improvement within the organization. Over the years, the process of finding board members had lost its formality. We determined as a board we needed to form a nominating committee for selecting new board members to ensure that best governance practices were in place. The nominating committee serves the crucial role of identifying and selecting candidate positions within the board of directors through identifying skill gaps and needs, recruitment and selection, screening candidates, recommendations to the board, promoting diversity and inclusion, compliance, and governance. The nominating committee serves as the critical intermediary between the board of directors and potential candidates, ensuring the organization's leadership remains strong, diverse, and aligned with its strategic objectives. The creation of the nominating committee was approved by the board in 2024. Lisa Kruger, during the time as interim CEO, was tasked to create an application process for both new board members and executive committee members. We leaned on her expertise in identifying the needs of the board and the leadership to make the leadership stronger and the creation of onboarding process for new members. Today, through the hard work of this committee and approval from our board members, our current board of directors includes professionals from the following industries in our community: 2 from hotels and resorts, 2 from food and beverage, both operational and educational, 2 from media, both print and radio, 2 from activities, 2 from community outreach, including a pastor, 2 from real estate, including short-term rentals, 1 from the city, as per the city contract for Go Lake Havasu. We are proud of this board of directors, their dedication to Lake Havasu City, and the strategic vision of Go Lake Havasu. We are always looking for new volunteers to join our board of directors to keep our pool of potential candidates current. Anyone interested in volunteering can reach out to us and we can start the application process. I would like to now introduce another member of our executive committee, Becky Goldberg, who will tell you about our bylaws committee.
Sorry, I'm taller than them. Hi. First of all, I would like to thank Vice Mayor Diaz and our city council liaison and fellow Rotarian for calling this work session to place today. I am the AVP Business Development Officer with First Savings Bank, where I work closely with local businesses to build strong relationships, support their growth in this community. Community service has always been central to who I am. I was raised in a family that believes strongly in giving back and being actively involved where you live, a value that has guided me through my commitment in Lake Havasu. I have served several several leadership roles, including school district governing board, where I was president. My mother and I co-founded the K-12 Foundation for Lake Havasu Unified School District. I'm the past chair for the Chamber Foundation for Education and Leadership, and currently the chair of the Education Committee, graduating in 2018 as a leadership class. My community involvement has also included serving on other organizations such as Go Lake Havasu, United Way, LHC Cares, the ambassador from the Chamber of Commerce, Lake Havasu High School Booster Club, Nautilus Elementary Site Council, the Stingray Team, Women's Council of Realtors, and the Balloon Festival, where I am the Pilot Affairs Committee and Sales Committee member. I was honored in 21 and 25 as the Lake Havasu Chamber Volunteer of the Year, as well as the Whalen Leadership Award in 2022. I'm a member of the Lake Havasu City Rotary Club, where I am currently serving as club president, and I was also that in 2020. And I also served 4 years as assistant district governor for the River City area here in Lake Havasu. Personally, I've spent many years in my family business applying my marketing degree before working as a business development officer at Horizon Community, where I also manage their marketing profile. I am also a mother of 2 children that I've raised in this town. Lake Havasu has given me much to my family and to me, serving as my way of giving back to this community that I love, and I remain committed to leadership and service that helps Lake Havasu to continue to grow, succeed, move forward, while ensuring that it remains a place that we are proud to call and for generations to come. Serving on multiple boards has also allowed me to be part of bylaw committees, and being on the Go Lake Havasu Executive Committee is no change for that. I can say working regularly to review and updating bylaws is recognized as the best practice for any governing board. Last year, we had the privilege of working with Lisa Kruger, our interim CEO, on the bylaw committee, and we conducted a comprehensive review of the organization's bylaws. These had not been updated for some time, and the executive committee felt it was important to ensure they reflected current governance standards, operational realities, and legal considerations. This is particularly important because the executive committee that now stands was not previously on any executive committee. So therefore, we wanted to ensure the bylaws were current and clearly aligned with the best governance practices and moving forward. Throughout this process, we involved members of the board, including an attorney, to help ensure the revisions were well informed and appropriate. The standard practice bylaws can be amended by a board vote, and several updates were thoroughly and thoughtfully discussed and approved by bringing them in line with current needs. One of the updates included adjusting board term limits. This decision was made intentionally to support leadership continuity and stability during a period of organizational transition while maintaining alignment with Gold Lake Havasu's mission and long-term vision. When Sean was hired, we felt it was important that he also have the opportunity to review the bylaws. Within the first 3 months of his arrival, the changes were reviewed with him. The additions and revisions were not made lightly. They were discussed thoroughly and collaboratively with the board to ensure thoughtful governance, transparency, and alignment with the best practices moving forward because responsibility is thorough oversight, and responsibility of leadership while ensuring long-term success of the organization. Our goal has always been to act in the best interest of Go Lake Havasu by maintaining strong governance practices, ensuring the stability and integrity of the organization while moving forward. At this time, I'd like to introduce John Westergaard, who will speak about our event committee.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
so we've already burned a half an hour of the meeting, so we just really need to speed it up. I definitely want to hear from Sean. And
That's what we're,
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, you want to wrap it up and then introduce Sean?
That's,
Yes.
yeah, and then we'll have Sean. Okay. Thank you for having us again today. We appreciate your time and the opportunity to share more about the work of Go Lake Havasu. Before we turn things over to our CEO, Sean Buckley, and his team, I would like to take a moment to recognize what I often refer to as our village of volunteers. Go Lake Havasu's success is possible because of the many community members and industry partners who generously volunteer their time and expertise to support the mission of promoting tourism and strengthening our local economy. If you're here today and your name is announced, please stand and remain standing until we have recognized all of the community leaders. For our event committee, we have Andrea Foote with Anderson Auto Group and Power Sports, Jerry Roccamonte with Lake Havasu City, Rachel Atkinson with Destination Havasu, Kyler Cox with Mojave County Sheriff's Office, Lindley Diskin with River Rat Radio, Shannon Machado with the Nautical Beachfront Resort, Dan Roddy with Arizona State Parks, Janine Samp, Sunset Charter and Tour Company, Shauna Stackhouse with London Bridge Resort, Jillian Usher with Nomadic, and then John Westergaard, Sugar's Restaurant Group. Our board of directors, Rachel Atkinson, Stephen Boswell with the Nautical Beachfront Resort, Lindley Diskin, Tom Giles with Inspire the Church, Becky Goldberg with First Savings Bank, City Manager Jessica Knudsen, Ryan Reynolds with the Nautical Water Sports, David Robbins with the Havasu News Herald, Vicki Runyon with Keller Williams Realty, Janine Samp, Amy West with Wave JTED, John Westergaard with the Sugars Group, and then, of course, our ex-officio board members, Dan Roddy with Arizona State Parks, Andrea Hellert with Chamber of Commerce, Joel Dickinson with our Hospitality Association, Rick Rigler with the Marine Association, James Graham with the PED, Vice Mayor David Diaz, Lake Havasu, Sean Buckley with Go Lake Havasu. Again, I cannot say this enough. It is truly an honor to serve alongside these dedicated community leaders who volunteer their time to support the economic vitality of our city and the continued success of Lake Havasu's tourism industry. At this time, I'd like to announce our CEO of Go Lake Havasu, Sean Buckley.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to see you all again. I hope you'll forgive me on a couple points, okay? First off, when we're at the 5 o'clock meetings, I show off tons of pretty pictures and artwork and all the cool stuff we're doing. At the 4 o'clock workshop, we've got to identify some problems in the organization. So I'm going to take that approach. We're going to ground this. We're going to talk a little bit more about Go Lake Havasu as a business and where it fits within the scope of the community and the tourism space, but also how it measures up against the industry at large. So I didn't bring a bio for you. I'm afraid we're just going to dive right in. First thing I want to share with you and the community is the way that we report, okay? So monthly, we're meeting with our board. We're reporting to the city on a quarterly basis. And I really want to encourage the community to reach out to us and solicit these reports. There is a ton of data and a ton of time and research that goes into this. I would love to know that people are reading these things. We are a very data-driven organization. So when you look at how we are measuring our effectiveness and how we're making decisions for the next step, really, this is what kind of aligns with that framework. This is really it. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is kind of a compilation of this. Okay, so our monthly reports roll into our quarterly reports. Our quarterly reports roll into a workshop where we talk about the structure of the office and where we stand in the industry. So I'm going to put this into context for you. We're not reliant on our opinion for what the information is that we're presenting to you on a monthly and a quarterly basis. We have a giant industry that we work with, guys. Above Go Lake Havasu is the Arizona Office of Tourism. Above them is Brand USA for the entire country and all the peripheral partners and research divisions that go into that. So I'm going to measure up our performance today against what the industry standards are that are based on Brand USA, Destinations International, Longwoods, Tourism Economics, U.S. Travel, etc. So we're going to fly through this pretty quickly. I hope you'll forgive the pace, but essentially what we are considered is a mature drive market. All right. So we are very well known within a particular region. We don't have air service, so that certainly fits us. And based on the tourism economics benchmark, drive markets usually fluctuate within a 0 to 2% range, pro or con, every year. The market conditions right now that are out there, everybody knows we've got a little bit softer domestic travel. We definitely have softer international travel. I think here in Lake Havasu, we felt that with Canada a little bit. And there's still some degree of normalization post-pandemic. What is the actual demand on our product at this point? So like the board has shared, we are funded through the TPT tax, transient privilege tax. That's 3% applied to hotels and motels, 1% applied to food. The way that we are funded, is fair to acknowledge it is somewhat of an anomaly in the industry. Most DMOs, destination marketing organizations, are funded exclusively through the lodging tax. We have the food and beverage tax component, which is very unique in a lot of ways to Lake Havasu City. So when we look at our budget structure, the ROI context is this. Essentially, you take the gross revenue amount collected by the city, you divide our marketing budget, which is $1.6 million, and essentially what that translates into is $2.60 earned for every dollar spent on tourism promotion. Now, where the numbers get really silly is when you apply the 20 and 40 point multiplier to that, because every one of those dollars translates into a $20 to $40 spend once you in market, and then you start getting a little bit looser definitions. So I think we can stick with that in terms of our budget ratio and how that's assigned. So as far as our destination performance, again, our mature destination, we hover in that 0 to 2% range. We've got about 1.6 to 1.7 million visitors a year. There isn't a whole lot of fluctuation in that, so we're hovering at about a B level. Industry benchmark. Now, when we look at other competing destinations that kind of fall into our comp set that we're fighting for the same dollars are. They're fighting us, it looks like. I mean, we've got Vegas down 5 points on room revenue. Big Bear, North Lake Tahoe, Sedona, Page. I mean, it is system-wide. There is a softening in tourism industry right now. So the interpretation is this. Right now, we are holding stable, but we are demonstrating some signs of life. You know, the past 2 months of TPT collections have shown positive increases in both lodging and food and beverage tax. So there is some positive trajectory there. Now, when we look at our marketing for performance holistically, this is our leisure marketing, our event marketing, everything bundled in. Again, looking at those reports, we get really, really granular into some of our performance. And just to give you a couple of those samples, I mean, we're looking at click-through rate, cost per click, social engagement rate, really trying to measure up where we are and, of course, exceed a lot of those levels. And when we look at those benchmarks, our paid digital media strategy right now is B+, organic just social media is up at an A, website engagement's about a B, earned media application, you know, our PR efforts have been stellar over the past year. So looking over the past couple of years, where we started, where we are, we're currently hovering around that A- grade. Earned media performance. This is somewhat a new initiative since I came on board. So typically markets of our size generally earn about 5 to 20 million earned media impressions per month. We are far exceeding that. We've had some tremendous media over the past year. The recognition by USA Today Top 10, Condé Nast Traveler, Parade Magazine, getting in some of these contests and listicles have really elevated our status and our brand awareness throughout the country and outside of our drive markets. So by a lot of definitions, our earned media does sit at an A+. When we look at our visitor center, okay, many visitor centers right now are on the decline, just like their lodging tax. We're down about 2 to 5 points nationwide is kind of the average. We're bringing in just under 70,000 visitors into that visitor center on an annual basis. And as of today, we're 14.5% year over year in foot traffic and just about 11.5% year over year in retail sales. So yes, we went from a B into an A in that category. Absolutely. Event performance. Okay, so this one's a little bit split because we do a couple things with events. We sponsor events and we market events. So when we look at the difference there, a couple different grading criteria. Now, the industry benchmark for event allocation, you can see, 50 to 60 on the high end. The anchor, the signature owned tourism events, right in the emerging events, those that have proven themselves but warrant a little bit further investment to get up to that anchor level, and then the community events. Below that, you can see Go Lake Havasu's allocation. Admittedly, we are very, very heavy on community-centric events, a little bit light on anchor events. So when it comes to event sponsorship, we're pretty well flatlined. We're not quite doing it right. We've been at a C and we're staying at a C. When we look at how we've marketed events, how we've collaborated with our event organizers, worked with them on their marketing programs, and just the type of engagement and awareness that we've generated, that's certainly gone from a C to an A. Now, our growth opportunities for the organization. Event promotion and marketing has definitely been a very, very hot focus for us over the past year. We've also rebranded in the sense that we've got a new look and feel to our campaign. We introduced the Go For It tag through our apparel, through our branding, through our physical booth space, and that's what this year has been. It's been kind of reintroducing the brand to the community, but the community to the international and domestic traveling audience. So we're looking forward. We don't have another year of brand building. We've done that part. Now we just build on that. The real opportunity is in contracted travel. This is one that I feel very strongly about. It's essentially what we're doing on the event side, where we know definitively the event's going to start at X, it's going to finish on Y. We can structure our travel that way. We start entertaining group, both domestic and international. We know they are going to be at this hotel parking lot on Wednesday. They're leaving on Thursday. We can start planning business and our travel life around that. I hear the community. I don't want more vehicles in the gas stations and the grocery stores. And that's not where tourism needs to go for Lake Havasu. We can really, really start contracting this and compartmentalizing it and build a sustainable tourism product here. So the industry benchmark really lays that out. High performing DMOs really emphasize group travel from a leisure perspective. We've got 3 tremendous gateway markets here. So we've got a real potential to tap into some international itineraries. Southern California, Phoenix, Las Vegas, all very, very practical international gateways to the community. So that's where our growth opportunity is. Last year we started in this, working with Go West. We'll be there again in a few weeks, speaking with all the international delegates that have interest in Western destinations. So we look forward to that compounding. I really think there's some real promise in the tourism vertical there. So And as far as our overarching performance assessment, again, looking realistically at the progression of our performance over the past couple of years and how that measures up in the industry. Right now, we're dealing with a visitor economy that's not bad, but it's not ideal. It's just a little bit softer. We're in that low B range. Our marketing performance, we've got some great stuff out there, guys. We're really proud of the efforts that we've made and some of the strides that we've earned in that, especially on the earned media side, where we're rocking A+. Visitor Center, we're seeing some tremendous growth year over year. That certainly scores high. Event marketing, our event sponsorship model, admittedly, I think needs some further discussion. But our overall strategic direction, we're in a good spot. The operation functions just like the operation should. It can only get better from here. We're performing at a high operational level. And here's the thing that I really want to share with you. When you're talking about Go Lake Havasu as an organization, what that organization is two parts. Okay. The operation is the marketing division that encompasses the central office as well as the visitor center. On the other side, you have the volunteer board. So there's a little bit of difference in terms of what I'm speaking to today. So the office manages the 38% of the budget allocation. We speak specifically for the earned media, the paid media, all the operational aspects within Go Lake Havasu. So let's talk about the problems, because there are a couple from the way that I see it. First off is this food and beverage tax component. This is very, very unique. It's quite the anomaly. And here's the trick for it from my perspective, offering you kind of an interesting, viewpoint from inside the office. Any one of us were to take this role tomorrow and immediately you're answering for a tax that's contributed by the residents. And I've never had to answer for this before. It is very, very rare out there that there's ever a residential contribution. That's really the way the tourism industry was designed. So the residents benefit from the visitors' money. And so I think we have an opportunity to look at that. Again, it's been enacted here for about 30 years. Potential solution, of course, I'm not a legislator, so it's very easy for me to just say, let's lose that. Let's crank up the lodging tax 3 points to offset our current balance, and let's stop taxing the residents. That would alleviate some of that heat. That's a potential, but again, that's a conversation starter, and I do think there is one that needs to revolve around this. Now, our second problem, guys, Go Lake Havasu has a board of directors problem. Okay. Janine was right in the sense of our assignment and how many people we have on that. But when you break that down, that's the look of our current roster. Best practice DMO roster, we're heavily leveraged in hotels and lodging because they're the ones that are on the front line collecting our tax. Attractions, recreation, restaurants and hospitality, marketing, tourism. Of course, we've got to have some community representation. So my solution there, I think it's time, if we're going to take a look at the tax, we're going to take a look at the organizational structure. Let's take a look at the board. Let's take a look at the board structure. Let's do a full audit, make sure we have the right people in the right positions. Let's take a look at the bylaw revisions, make sure that those are consistent with common DMO practices of markets our size. Let's get a councilman placed on our executive committee. We have them in board meetings, but there's a lot of conversations that happen outside of there that I think would be relevant to council, and I'd really love you to have that first person experience. And ultimately, let's introduce board reporting. That's something that's missing from our format right now. I think that would be advantageous if we could come up here and deliver that from, again, both parts of the organization. So, that really is it, guys. If we're looking at Go Lake Havasu as a business, it was designed for a function. It's clearly performing that function. There's growth opportunity ahead. It's not done. We're nowhere near done. There's nothing but opportunity if we start looking at how we structure and contract and really kind of control our influx of tourism. But it's not to say that we're perfect. We absolutely are. We have challenges just like every other business. And I think this is really healthy to bring this up to the community, make them aware of what we're doing, the challenges that we're facing, and collectively work to build the best possible office of tourism that we can have in Lake Havasu City. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Councilmember Lynn actually has a question for you.
Can you define the difference between sponsoring and marketing? What sponsoring means?
Yeah, so when we're sponsoring an event, we're contributing money to the event. We are assisting in the finance of the production of that event. So when we're marketing, we're going outside the community, we're writing our marketing scope. So we're actually applying financial support to those events.
Thank you. That's what I thought. What I thought you meant. On that, is that normal in this type of organization to do sponsorships, to bring in promoters here? Is that normal?
Extremely normal. I mean, there's an argument that could be made that that's exactly why destination marketing organizations exist. The example that I always lean on is New Orleans. Okay. They dedicate 30% of their operating budget to Mardi Gras, not 30% of their sponsorship budget. I mean, that's why they exist. I come from Visit Albuquerque. Okay. We had the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. 20 to 25% of our operating budget was designed to support that event. That's how important events are from a marketing perspective as far as tourism attraction.
And do you know what that amount is of your budget that you use for sponsoring? Do you know what that is?
Right off the top, I mean, we're over budget this year, which is okay because we're investing in some newer areas. I think we're pushing 2.25 is overall the amount that we have allocated for events this year.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we'll have J.D. Butler from the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association say a few words, and then we'll open up the public hearing.
Just checking. Perfect. All right. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. My name is J.D. Butler. I'm with the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association. I'm here as the statewide voice of Arizona's travel, tourism, lodging, attractions, arts, and sports industries. My goal today is to give a simple, high-level overview of why destination marketing matters to communities like Lake Havasu City, what we see DMOs do around the state and around the country, and how tourism can be thoughtfully implemented in any community. So just very briefly on AZLTA, we're the leading statewide public policy organization advocating for Arizona's travel and tourism industry. That means we spend most of our time in city councils, just like right now, and before legislators, advocating for tourism funding models, competitiveness, tax policy, and protecting that long-term health of Arizona's visitor economy across all communities, large and small. So just a brief overview by the numbers of what we see throughout the state. We're just calibrating here. Arizona sees about 46.5 million visitors annually, and they spend over $30 billion, and that spending supports 300,000 jobs throughout the state and generates more than $4.3 billion in tax revenues for communities. Now, again, this is for the whole state. This is not local to what you see here in Lake Havasu, but there's a lot of money on the table and a lot of opportunity available. There are 2 points here that I want to highlight for this council today. First, less than 1/4 of visitor spending is typically spent on lodging. That means that most visitor dollars are flowing into restaurants, retail, fuel, attractions, local services. When someone visits, they're not just staying in their hotel room, watching TV, reading a book, maybe sometimes, but most of the time they're going out, they're eating at restaurants. Again, they're shopping and supporting those local businesses. And then second, the return on yes.
Vice Mayor
I'm
Diaz.
sorry, but we're 45 minutes into this presentation, and we know tourism is important.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, how long do you need to give your presentation?
I'll be done in 5
Convincing us about tourism, we're all.
It's just a couple more minutes, Vice Mayor Diaz.
I'll be done in 5 minutes, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
No, thank you so much. I'll make it so quick. Again, the return on investment for tourism is really, really high. Go Lake Havasu and other DMOs do a great job to bring those dollars in from, not just from around the state, but around the country. So the question isn't whether or not tourism matters. It's why bother? Why market tourism? It's an export industry. You're bringing in those dollars from outside. But the reality is you're competing with destinations, not just from around the state, not just from around the country, but around the world. And a lot of these destinations have significant advertising budgets. And when destinations don't have reliable tourism funding, you can lose out on events and overnight visitors. And we've seen right now with international visitation that visitation isn't always going to be stable. Demand shift, it changes, it grows, it evolves. And destination marketing helps to respond to those changes. I'll blow through this slide. Statewide, we see the Arizona Office of Tourism. Regional, you have your DMO. And then, of course, private sector can market itself as well. This slide is just to show you a little bit about what we see throughout the country. Of course, you have your large metro areas with significant budgets, but you also have very visitor-focused economies such as South Lake Tahoe, Moab, Aspen, Jackson Hole, who are investing significantly in tourism marketing. So what's the impact of destination marketing? Well, you're defining and protecting that brand of your destination. You're targeting specific visitor segments that you want. and you're helping to fill those gaps in seasonality. Sometimes that means recruiting large groups or targeting specific types of visitors. Maybe you want to see more families, maybe you want to see more leisure travelers, recreation, whatever the type of visitor is that you want to see, destination marketing helps to bring them in. We often hear that, why do we need to market maybe Go Lake Havasu, or why do we need to market a city like Sedona or elsewhere? Well, if you just send a message out into the ether and hope that the right people see it, I think you're going to often be disappointed. Destination marketing helps you to target those specific visitor segments and make sure that they're coming and spending money in the way that you want to see it. And of course, there's measurable effectiveness. Sean was talking about his dashboard and all the measures that you have, whether it's measuring visitor volume, occupancy rates, how much rooms are selling for, or those economic impact signals where visitors are spending their money. Again, maybe it's restaurants, retail, elsewhere. And then filling group blocks and events. Again, there's a lot of ways to measure the effectiveness of tourism and destination marketing. So I'll just close with a few key takeaways. Tourism marketing is economic development. Arizona and our cities and towns are competing for visitors, events, and group travel, again, with destinations from around the world. Marketing is helping you to attract those right visitors. It's measurable, and DMOs are the mechanism that align the local businesses and the advantages of your destination with your partners and helping to attract those visitors, again, that you want. And when marketing destination drives those overnight visitors into town, the benefit extends far beyond the hotel rooms. Visitors dine in local restaurants, they shop in stores, and spend at attractions and experiences throughout the city. I understand you're short on time, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you all.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. No, I chair the meeting? No, I do. Oh, yes. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We did have several people sign up, so we'll go in the order that they signed up. We ask that you keep your comments brief because it seems like a lot of people are going to want to engage in this conversation. So we'll start with Edward Katz and then followed by Neil Tinsley, if you just want to start lining up so that we can meet the interest of everybody.
Hi, my name's Edward Katz, a longtime resident here. And I'm just going to put it bluntly. They tried to run off the clock, you guys, and you know it, okay? So it's a hard pass on Go Lake Havasu. We don't need it. There's 39 million people on the other side of the river that are paying 13.3% state income tax. Here they pay 2.5%. And that's enough to grow the town. And that's how it's going to happen. I'm done.
Thank you.
Because it has to be short because they ran the clock out and people can't speak.
Neil Tinsley, followed by Jan Cassis.
Good evening, everyone. Over the past several weeks, I started digging into something that should concern every taxpayer in Lake Havasu. Every year, the city sends $1.6 million of bed tax revenue to an outside nonprofit organization called Go Lake Havasu to promote tourism. Over the life of its current contract, that adds up to nearly $10 million of public money. So I did what any responsible resident would do. I filed a formal public request with the city clerk's office asking for basic documentation tied to that spending. Things like conflict of interest disclosures from board members, financial reports showing how the money was spent, invoices or payment documentation tied to the $1.6 million issued every year, and records showing how the city verifies performance for the contract. The response from the city clerk was alarming. According to the city's official response, the city does not have conflict of interest disclosures forms for Go Lake Havasu board members. The city does not have expenditure summaries showing how that money was spent. The city does not have invoices or payment documentation tied to the $1.6 million paid out each year. And the city confirmed that Go Lake Havasu does not submit documentation to the city when the payments are issued. Even more concerning, the records provided contain no board meeting minutes, only agendas. That means public has no record of what was discussed, what decisions were made, or how millions of taxpayer dollars are being approved. So right now we have a $1.6 million a year leaving city accounts with no financial documentation submitted to the city and no public records showing expenditures or measurable performance. That is not transparency. That is not accountability. That is complete failure of oversight. And it gets worse. The city approved a 6-year contract committing millions of taxpayer dollars under these conditions. During that vote, our current mayor, who works for London Bridge Resort, a business that directly benefits from tourism promotion, did not recuse himself from the vote. Under Arizona Conflict of Interest Law, ARS 38-503, public officials must disclose and refrain from participating in decisions where they may have substantial interest. Situations like this raise serious questions that deserve answers. Let me be clear. Tourism promotion is important for Lake Havasu. It helps our businesses and our economy, but no organization receiving $1.6 million a year in taxpayer money should operate without transparency, documentation, or accountability. As a candidate for city council, I believe the people of Lake Havasu deserve to know exactly how their money is being spent. Because when taxpayer money is involved, the public should always be able to follow the money. And right now, they can't. Thank you.
Jan Cassis? Is Jan here? Oh, yeah, please. All right, followed by Dave Johnson.
City Council. I'm very happy that I'm here because I try to be in touch with the board of Go Lake Havasu. About a year ago, I resigned under duress. I was treated badly by the CEO, Sean Buckley. I don't want to talk about this anymore because that's part of a lawsuit that is pending. The day after tomorrow, I talk with the Arizona attorney office about this. What I want to talk about is how the board has treated me. When I left, I sent them a letter with everything that was going on. They didn't answer. I called 2 weeks later, are you going to do something? You want to answer me? I asked Christina. She said, well, I read it in the meeting and I filed it. I said, really? Yes, he filed it. That was it. 2 weeks later, I sent another letter with more extended what happened to me. No reaction. I worked for 17 years in the visitor center. I built a visitor center from a little building to a wonderful one. When Sean Buckley came in, it was all wrong. And now, is this the way you handle your workers? 17 years? I'm very disappointed. And if this tells you something about the board, then it tells you what kind of people they are. It's a group of people who come together, talk about things, and go home again. They don't look into it. They don't even have a real plan what they're going to do. They told me, through the lawyer, that I didn't follow the rules. They didn't have rules. They don't have a plan. The board never told me what their big plan is, what you're going to do. Yes, improve tourism and all that. I almost said the wrong word, BS. We all know it's about tourism. But how do you do it? Yes, we hire a company from far away. But really, talk with your workers, with your city, what you're doing, what your plans are, No way. I feel harassed. I was harassed. And I'm not done. If people treat workers like this, they need, I wouldn't say punished. They need to hear what they did wrong. And please, it's time to stop Go Lake Havasu. Bring Lake Havasu to the city. Order a company who can write some stuff, organize some events. Because now we have had, I know at least 5 CEOs who didn't leave in a normal way. They were asked, you can go or we fire you. If you go, we give you some money. How much money did they give? It's a very American saying, it was all money from the taxpayers. Of course it is. City Council, there is no need for Go Lake Havasu. There is need for some people from Go Lake Havasu. There are people who have done a good job. When I started, when Sean started, there were 6 people. 1 month later, there were 3 left. And why? We don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Dave Johnson, followed by Pam Swenson.
So I'm the guy that made the comment on Facebook, so we're all clear.
And Mr. Johnson, you just address the council, please.
So I'm all about efficiencies, right? And I've had my run around with Go Lake Havasu for 3 years running now. I put on an event called Super Cat Fest West. I believe that tourism dollars should be pointed towards events. The reason being is an event like Desert Storm that Jim Nichols and Steve Tickner now put on brings 25 to 35,000 people to town. It is not a question. It is not, did it do it or not? Every person in this room knows it doesn't. That event originally being the Heat Wave back from 1995, all the going up to Desert Storm. You know, I helped Jim Nichols market that event quite a bit and grow it into what it is. I spoke to Jim the other day. Jim, do you mind if I share the numbers that you told me or no? So I asked Jim the other day, I says, hey, you know, what does Desert Storm get out of Go Lake Havasu? You know, there's a lock. There's 30,000 people come to town. Last year, first time ever, $5,000. This year, 20,000, and he's very grateful for it, and I would be too if I was him. My issue that I take issue with is I listen to all this experience in marketing this and marketing that. I could ask a basic question, and I bet there's 3 guys in this room that will be able to answer it. What is a pitch for tourism? What is a pitch for anything? There's 3 key components to any pitch. You have your hook, big ones. You have your story, that's Lake Havasu. We have these recreational things. And then you have your call to action. Book now, do whatever, right? I went through Go Lake Havasu's social media. And ironically enough, because we're kind of in my sphere, I'm actually able to pull up and see what Go Lake Havasu's spending money on in their Facebook ads. 1 out of like hundreds had the 3 components, and it was surely by accident. They're literally static images, breaking spring with a picture of a boat. They're static images, you know. I'm actually going to post the link online so everybody can see it. But Sean claims we're doing A+ work or B's or this. I don't know who the hell's grading that. But I figured I would show you guys a little bit of reality. Go Lake Havasu has, just on Instagram, is everybody familiar with Instagram? 25.9 thousand followers. I cannot tell you how horrible that is. Literally, River Rigs is a t-shirt company that comes out to events, and they exhibit at Desert Storm and Super Cat. This just started less than a year ago. They have 31,000. Havasu Crew, 30.8. Havasu State of Mind, 48. Go Lake Havasu, 25.9 again. Speed Savvy, that's a young girl here that started a photography business not that long ago, 26,000. She's currently outperforming Go Lake Havasu. Fast and Loud, 50,000. My personal favorite is this Dominic Portillo It's a kid with a jet boat and an iPhone. How do you think he's doing? He's outperforming Go Lake Havasu. Now, there's going to be other metrics there. They're going to talk about, well, you know, our website gets so much traffic. Well, I asked AI to look into that. It gets around 100,000 unique IPs a month. For personal reference, mine gets 350 to 450,000, and I sure as hell don't have a $400,000 to $500,000 budget. My personal Instagram, roughly, it's 5 times the size of Go Lake Havasu. If we are doing digital marketing and we don't even understand what a pitch is, let alone getting outperformed by kids with iPhones, we need to rethink the entire process. My opinion, take some of these funds, go hit up a Jet Suite X, get some direct flights. If the idea is to get people into the town, sponsor events, hit up an airline, hire a guy out of college to just do social media and work for the city. For 60 grand, my film guy is decimating Go Lake Havasu. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Swenson, followed by Reagan Ross.
Hi, my name is Pam Swenson, and all of you know me because I've spoken, thank you, I've spoken in front of you before. I am a former employee of Go Lake Havasu. I terminated my employment with them on September 29th. September 30th, 2023 was my last day. I made a decision in one day to leave because I could no longer work for an unethical, unprofessional organization. Now, the executive committee came up here and they talked about their resumes. At length, they took a lot of time away from the rest of us, and I resent that. And I also resent the fact that what they have done is now covered up their asses from all the mistakes that they have made over the years. I have spoken to you before about my concerns about the board. And while some of the people who are on the board now and on the executive committee, they were board members at the time when I left, but they were not on the executive committee, but they all know what occurred then. And right now, they're trying to fix their mistakes, but it's too late because they have done a massive amount of destruction to that organization and the reputation of that organization in the last few years. The city also has some responsibility in this because there was backdoor involvement with the hiring of Susan Smith, and I have proof of that. And no matter how much is denied by the city, I can tell you that I know for a fact that there was involvement with the city. And I was made out to be a disgruntled employee because I quit my job the day after Reagan Ross was fired. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back because I had been trying to deal with the board for months and months and months over issues within the organization that were not being resolved. I was told personally by the then chair that they had no ability to deal with any personnel issues because there was no CEO in place. But then when it came time to firing Reagan, they had suddenly had that authorization. It was a very hostile work environment when I was there, and it's very unfortunate because I was there for 6.5 years, and I loved working there, but it became very, very uncomfortable for me to proceed there. I have a resume that most who worked there had no idea what my background was. I have background in human resources, operations, and facilities, workers' compensation, and it goes on and on. And I was treated as if I was just some stupid person sitting at the front desk, and I also resented that because a lot of my opinions and my knowledge were set aside because people just didn't give me the opportunity to really express things. I believe in tourism in this town. I believe we need it, but I do not believe that the structure of Go Lake Havasu, the way it is now, is a viable answer to the needs of this town and what we should have going forward. I believe that there are ways to proceed. I believe the visitor center is highly important. And as someone who spoke with many potential visitors and visitors, I know what they were looking for. I also know that because of the structure, because of influences outside, some from the city, some from other businesses, that the direction of Go Lake Havasu was sometimes thwarted. And the direction of the city is not really to what would best suit a lot of the tourists, because I got calls wanting to know about downtown, about other things to do other than going on the lake or the channel, but that never seemed to be a priority with the city, and thus Go Lake Havasu was limited to what they could do. I don't have anything written. I have a lot of paperwork here of things that I've produced, and I have spoken to you before. I know that, and I also want you to know that when I left Go Lake Havasu, I was finally allowed to speak as a resident of this town, because when I worked there, I was not, because I had to protect the organization and the city. And when I left, I wrote a letter to the editor about my concerns, particularly with the hiring of Susan Smith as the CEO because of her background and what was going on. And I received a cease and desist letter from her, which was written from an attorney who was also representing her for the city. So I don't know who was paying for that attorney to do a civil suit against me, but I think, and I brought that to somebody's attention and nothing ever happened. But as far as I'm concerned, Go Lake Havasu paid for that attorney for her to bring a cease and desist letter against me. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in that organization that nobody talks about, and I don't trust that it's not happening now. So thank you.
Yeah. Reagan Ross. And as Reagan makes her way up, this will conclude the folks that have signed up. So anyone else that wants to address the council, if you could start lining up behind Reagan so we can save the time of the transition. Ms. Ross?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I apologize. I did not bring my long bio of being born and raised in Lake Havasu and my whole professional career spent here. But it is important to note that I did work at Go Lake Havasu from 2019 to 2023. Prior to that, I was actually a board member that helped develop, at that time they were coming up with how the organization could be more involved in the community. At that time, I resigned from the board, applied for the position and was given that opportunity. I start with a simple question. When millions of dollars in taxpayer generated tourism revenue are involved, who is ultimately responsible for ensuring transparency, accountability, and proper oversight? Here in Lake Havasu, it's Go Lake Havasu. Yet the structure currently in place places public tax dollars in the hands of a private organization with limited public oversight, an organization with years of history of showing nepotism, cronyism, lack of fairness, conflict of interest, and breach of fiduciary duty. Tonight, I'm here because I want to give an opportunity to modernize that organization. It was developed 30 years ago. Back when Lake Havasu was trying to get MTV here, I was in middle school. We needed all this money going to tourism. It's evolved. It's time to look at it, and I'm glad we have the opportunity now. I've been waiting 2.5 years for this opportunity. One of the main concerns with Go Lake Havasu is they have a complete disregard for their bylaws. I'm glad they amended them, but does that mean they follow them? No. They have ethical human resource practices that they violate all the time. When they posted the position for CEO after Terrence was terminated from his position, the city was involved in that process. I'll speak later on the city's involvement in an independent organization. They have zero transparency and record keeping. Trust me, I worked there. I saw it. When organizations operate primarily behind doors, their records should be open for public trust, and they are not. They have conflicts of interest and zero ethical safeguards. There's no whistleblower protection. Speak from history on that. And I have to share a story. When the CEO position came available after Terrence left, Terrence Concannon, there was an executive committee member of the board that reviewed all of the applications that came through. At that time, he then resigned from the executive committee and applied for the position after reviewing all of the other applications that came through. He didn't get the job, but guess what? He went right back on the executive committee to be Susan Smith's boss. What does that say? Finally, in the funding contract between the city and Go Lake Havasu, it clearly states that Go Lake Havasu is an independent contractor. This was my fighting point in my termination. The city has violated time and time again that independent contractor relationship with Go Lake Havasu. As a staff member, you go in every day. Your boss is the CEO. You have 13 board members that also have their own agenda. Then all of you have your own agenda. You have to make 30 people happy every day. And it's impossible to perform in a functional capacity with that weight of never knowing whose private agenda you need to be fulfilling at that time. So my proposal is, there's a few of them, and I think the council should take this time to look at how to restructure. There could be simple things as Go Lake Havasu just operates the visitor center. They do a visitor guide. They do the front-facing interactions with our tourists that come to town. And trust me, I've been asked, I think, 20 times just this week alone, do I support tourism? Yes, I support tourism. My entire professional career is based on tourism coming to this town. But it just needs to be looked at differently with that amount of money going to a quasi-government, well, undeclared quasi-government organization. The city could take part of that funding and create a grant program. There are cities all across the country that use tourism revenue to keep our city strong. My role at Go Lake Havasu was not getting the tourists here. It was keeping them happy while they were here so they would return. We can spend all the money we want in San Francisco, but we want to make sure they come back. And so that means we need a stronger community. You guys could develop a grant program, funds our museum, funds the arts program, funds downtown. There's lots of possibilities to look at, and I encourage you to please take this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And if we can, Ms. Williams, we'll be generous, but if we can set the clock for 3 minutes now, just so we can get through as many folks as we can, we'll be generous with people that prepare remarks. Ms. Roddy?
Thank you very much, Mayor Sheehy, members of the council. I felt obligated to be here today as the Western Region Manager of the Arizona State Parks and Trails, as I also stood in front of this group in 2023 and advocated for the city to award the $1.6 million contract to Go Lake Havasu for tourism efforts. I believe the only person that's different is it was Vice Mayor Lane at the time, and now it's Vice Mayor Diaz, and I appreciate that. But the key is, just as then, I still believe now that taking some of that tax that the citizens of Lake Havasu City agreed to pay and using it for what it was agreed to be spent on for tourism and economic development is very, very important. We've highlighted here, and a lot of people have stood before you this evening and talked about some of the problems. And yes, there are problems. But the answer is not to abolish everything, put our head in the sand, get rid of a bunch of things, and pretend that we're going to be able to pick it up and take it off from where it is. The city of Sedona, at the same time in 2023, the Lake Havasu City agreed to extend and award a six-year contract for the limited amount of $1.6 million on a tax that produces over $3 million a year. Right? Nobody's up here saying, wait a minute, what happened to the 1.4 that we agreed to tax and spend on tourism? Nobody's asked about that 1.4 million. But we agreed to spend 1.6 million as Lake Havasu City in this contract. The very same time we're doing that here, over in Sedona, they're having an issue with their DMO, over $8 million. And the city decided not to spend the $8 million with the DMO. Oh, wait, let me correct that. The DMO said we don't want the $8 million from the city. Why? Because the politics in the community at the time actually wanted to reduce tourism. There were too many people coming in their town, everything else. This is all readily available. You can do the searches for yourself. But Sedona decided to abandon the DMO model. First thing they had to do, go out and hire a bunch more government workers. I bring that up briefly. I serve as an ex officio member on the event committee as well as the board at Gold Lake Havasu. Very transparent. Anytime that anybody wants to ask me anything, and I've had people come up to me in the street, ask me questions, I will answer them. I have not voted on anything, but I stand behind each and every one of those decisions that I've been involved in. I will tell you this, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this. I compliment the council and Vice Mayor Diaz for bringing this forward. I think it's a very important topic, and I look forward to watching and seeing where it goes from here. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good evening, Bob Barrett, Lake Havasu City. The way I look at this, there are 4 general areas. I probably won't talk about all 4, but try to talk about 2 of the 4. First, the goals of Lake Havasu. Number 2 is marketing. Number 3, financing, and 4, management. Those aren't in any order. So, goals of Go Lake Havasu. It's really pretty simple. Attract tourists, promote Lake Havasu City. I'm taking these from the wording of the contract. Coordination of hotel and motel efforts to maximize occupancy rates. Then it's interesting, there's nothing about restaurants and maximizing visits into restaurants, but so that was weird. And then the 4th one is operate a visitor center. Now, regarding the $1.6 million that city taxpayers give to Go Lake Havasu, as we all know, it's part of the restaurant tax and it's part of the hotel motel tax. So I'm going to start there. It'll probably take 2 minutes to go over that. So I did this little circle chart. 2 million hotel motel per year at 3%. 1 million of that goes to Go Lake Havasu. The other million does not. On the back, I have the restaurant and restaurant tax, 2 million a year. Half of it is, we think residents actually pay for half of that. And then half of the remaining is sent to Go Lake Havasu. Okay, that's 1.5 million. It's 1.6. I get there's an issue there. David, you probably caught that right away. So let's go back to hotel motel. 1 million out of 2 million. Do we really think that Go Lake Havasu is responsible for 1 out of every 2 hotel rooms booked in this city? I mean, that's what this is showing. Because we want that 1.6 back, right? We want at least that back. Otherwise, why give it to you for marketing? Marketing is all about getting a return. It's not about doing something operationally because we're legally required to. We want that marketing dollars back and then some. So I'm saying break even. Break even. We get 1.6 million back in taxes. We really think that 1 out of every 2 hotel rooms is booked through Go Lake Havasu. On the other side, do we really think if we're going into a restaurant, let's say I'm going to get my donuts in the morning, trying not to, but let's say I do. 1 out of every 4 customers in line are in that line because of Go Lake Havasu. And then at noon, when I go and get my Subway, 1 out of every 4 people, same thing. And then in the evening too, that's not even close. That gets me to marketing in 14 seconds. Everyone comes from LA, Phoenix, Vegas. 4 years ago, they got grant money, $250,000. They spent it on Chicago and San Francisco. They did a big TV ad in San Francisco, and it worked for about a month or 2 because I went through, Mr. Buckley, I went through all 1,080 pages, and it worked for about a month, and then San Francisco disappeared from our top 10 again. So our attempt at trying to target audiences worked for a month. It certainly didn't get them back the $250,000 grant. That's an example. I have more to say, but I can't today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
City Council, fellow community members, my name's Alex Ross, father of Reagan Ross. Very proud of her and what she's gone through in this process of this organization's past pretty blemished record of CEO retention and hiring and firing practices and the denial of council members' involvement in that process and lack of appropriate authority, which every CEO I've talked to that's been a member of this organization in the past has clearly said only the CEO has the power to fire those employees there, not members of that board. So it's disheartening, but I wanted to just reiterate, if you want to find out real quick when an organization is having management and upside down problems, they fire the whistleblower and then deny it. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else is going to want to speak, if you could please line up behind Ms. Toy, and we'll get through those as quick as possible before we have to transition to our next meeting.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Apparently, my name is Ms. Toy. I just wanted to say I'm really grateful for this work session. Although I thought a work session meant that like we would have feedback back and forth a little bit, and I didn't understand any of that, apparently. A few weeks ago, I noticed, and I know I mentioned it at one of the city council meetings, that the Go Lake Havasu Facebook post, social media post, because I pay attention to their Facebook stuff, had lessened over the last 2 years, whereas 2 years ago, they were having posts every single day. You knew what was going on in town, and like weekly events were listed where that was really easy to be found. And over the last 2 years, they had three posts about the Balloon Fest. And that was really disappointing to sit there and scroll through and only see 3 posts regarding the Balloon Fest on Facebook at the Go Lake Havasu Facebook page when Mr. Buckley gave that beautiful presentation a year ago, included how much social media helped and how much Facebook advertisement helps them, then they didn't use it. I didn't understand that, and just like to suggest that they maybe up their social media game a little bit more. Also, when you guys had the discussion regarding Go Lake Havasu and extending their contract, I distinctly remember that the city does not own the trademark for Home of the London Bridge, and that it had been given somehow to the Go Lake Havasu. But when you were supposed to renew your contract, it was supposed to be given back to the city. And I even remember mentioning it back then, but it still was never put into the contract. I'd just like to remind you that you were supposed to receive your Home of the London Bridge trademark back, but you didn't. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tim Murray. What an informative meeting. I can't believe this. I knew very little about Go Lake Havasu. I know more tonight than I really want to know. My friends on the council, this is your responsibility. You are accountable for this. You are accountable for our tax dollars. We elect you to these positions, and I've been up here before and said to you, your job is to protect us. That's why we put you in office. To be honest with you, Mr. Mayor, it's not happening. You need to take a leadership role, and I've talked about this before. The problem here is leadership. It needs to happen now. There's too many people sitting out here, and yeah, I'm sure there's 2 sides to a story. There always is. But guess what? This is unbelievable. I can't believe I see what's going on here tonight. And each and every one of you sitting up here have a responsibility, including the city manager, okay, who sits on one of the boards, okay, to protect our interests as taxpayers. And to be quite frank with you, you haven't done it. Elections are coming up. I'm not making any threats, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that aren't happy out here. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council before we close the public hearing? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll bring it to council for just a few brief comments. If any members of the council have any comments that they would like to make. If anyone has any comments, Vice Mayor Diaz.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, you and I could talk offline, but I'd probably like to have a follow-up agenda item on a council meeting to talk about the contract and possibly becoming at the liaison, whoever that is, becoming a voting board member that we talked about. So
yes,
okay,
yes, we can do that. Yes. Any other comments from members of the board or from the council? Yeah, there's a couple of things that, I'm sorry, yeah, Mr. Councilmember Dolan?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments.
Please.
I'm concerned as well. I think, I had concerns in 2023 when David Lane and I voted no on the contract because I do feel like it's a lot of money going to an organization that just hires other people, and I don't really think we're seeing the results. I do think they have a good board of dedicated Havasu people, but I think we need a better direction. I don't want to scuttle the whole thing. I think we have an opportunity here. I definitely think we need to rework things, and with a new CEO coming in, I definitely think we need to rework and figure this out. I like the bed tax over the food tax and the council member on the executive board, but I do see this as a great opportunity to fix from here on out. I'm more worried about tomorrow than I am, I want to learn from the past, but I think we got to, I'm afraid that if we just shut it down and then try to just not use it is not smart. I think we need a plan and a strategy, but I think we definitely do need some work on this. And like I said, I appreciate everyone coming out today. Like I said, I do have my concerns, and I think they still exist. I think the CEO in the past, I don't know the current CEO, but I know in the past had their own agendas. And I think somebody hit home with that the different agendas that people have. I think we need a strong set of bylaws and a strong setup that those kind of things don't come through. But that's just my concern. And like I said, I think it's definitely something we need to continue and take very seriously and rework so we can get it working, because it is taxpayer money that's going towards this, and it's very beneficial, but we got to make sure it's being spent in the right place. And I don't think it's being spent in the right place right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Say one thing.
Councilmember Lynn?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Councilmember Dolan. I believe I was the only no vote on that contract. We can even pull up the things. I'm pretty sure I was the only no vote on that. I don't believe you or Councilmember Lane voted no on it. The last one, it was myself only that was a vote no on that.
Yeah. Are there any other comments from members of the council?
I remember David Lane and I were. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Dolan?
No, like I said, I didn't go back and relook at everything, but no, I do remember we had concerns about the amount of money going to Go Lake Havasu, and I know David Lane and I were, but no, definitely something to look into. It's transparency, it's all there, and it's definitely something we need to fix.
Yeah, and Councilmember Dolan, I don't have the vote in front of us, but I know the conversation at that time was taking it from the 75% of the total food and beverage tax, as well as the 3% bed tax, the 75% going to Go Lake Havasu and the 25% going to PED, and reducing it down to a fixed rate to help offset the other things. And that was some of the discussion that we had that we did take into consideration. Then, of course, Vice Mayor Diaz is asking, instead of having the contract have the city manager as the voting member, that it would be the council liaison, which we can bring that back forward. So any additional comments before we transition?
I know. Just one final statement that I need to say is I also was one that got a cease and desist letter from one of the employees as well, which I found very shocking. And I'm a businesswoman, and this is where we're coming from. We have an in-house attorney. We have a city manager. We have legal. We have a finance department. We have the police department that needs to be notified. We have the permit people that need to be notified. We have the street department that needs to be notified. We have, there's so many things in-house that we have to communicate with Go Lake Havasu through the whole thing, that I find, like any business, if it's all under one roof, doesn't it seem like it makes better sense? I'm not saying I'm all ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but as a businesswoman, I've been watching the 5 different CEOs that we went through. Is there bias? Absolutely, there is bias. I know that for a fact because from 2020 on, or 2018, 2019, I've asked a bunch of times what happens with the rodeo ground. I care too, there's not $1 of taxpayer money that went into that rodeo ground. We've asked it, can you just market it? Like, just tag it that there's cowboys that love our rodeo, or all the things that happen there. And guess what? It's not a priority to us. So those are important. And I think I talked about it last time that, what is your process of getting, events marketed? What does that look like? I have like Desert Storm. You see that the minimum sponsorship on that might be like $15,000 to sponsor Desert Storm. Why? Because they bring so much attention to what Lake Havasu City. I remember Lake Havasu Songwriters Festival. I had to fight for 4 years to get $500 from them, and I had over 100,000 views, but I had to market them all over the place, but I was just kind of not important. So I see what people feel like at other events. When we start hand-picking events and who we like and who we don't like, it needs to be highly transparent. It needs to be a system in place that any of us council members that want to ask can say, show me all the events that showed up this year and wanted to be here. Who did you pay? And Sean did a great job presenting that the other day, but I was even questioning brews and brats, but not this one. So I don't know how they do it. I know they have a phenomenal board. I know almost every single one of you on this board. I know all your intention is amazing. I do. But there's something amiss here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Moses, did you have a few things then?
No, thank you. There's so much to unpack here, so I'm just going to stay very high level about where we can go with this. When people talk about wanting to get rid of Go Lake Havasu, I think it's a ridiculous conversation, because Go Lake Havasu is us. It's a board comprised of Lake Havasu city residents, most of whom who work in the tourism industry and just want to have a say with how their tourism dollars are spent. There are a couple funny things. Like the sponsorship thing seems to be like it creates these sour grapes with people. I was an event planner when in my old days, back when I was younger, and I wasn't given money either. But, I wasn't bringing much to, I was a new one and I wasn't bringing much to the economy. So I understand, like there's things that they have to deal with. I don't know if that's really the direction we want to go. Can it be more marketing dollars instead of just direct cash? Because like I was a charity, you were a charity. Dave, yours is a charity. Why is Go Lake Havasu giving to a charitable function? Like, what's the point? The point is to bring tourism dollars, not to raise charity dollars. So I understand why I was denied, because that didn't make sense. So there's some things that can be addressed here. When people say that the tax dollars are local dollars, I would like to be able to say, like, no, that is 100% tourism driven dollars. And so it was an interesting suggestion by Sean over there, Sean Buckley, that it is tied directly to our lodging tax and not the restaurant tax. But again, I'm sure everyone's, he owns a restaurant, that's why he's for it. I don't care. This is your conversation. You know what I mean? I'm whatever. But I think it would, if this really wanted to be a tourism pays for tourism, then that would make the most sense. That way we don't have our locals paying for those tourism dollars. But there's a lot to unpack. I wish this was actually a work session and not just I don't know what you were trying to accomplish here. I don't think we accomplished it. But I guess it's a TBD. Yeah. And where we can actually get some work done.
Definitely to be determined. I just want to say one thing. So the overall tax that we take, the amount of money we take in from this tax is $4.2 million. We give $500,000 to the PED and 1.6 to Go Lake Havasu, 2.1. The other 2.1, I believe we put it in the general fund. So, okay. So just to get that clear.
I'm sorry. Can I finish one more thought? I know we're up against it. I want to say thank you to the board members. I've served on these boards. I think it's ridiculous how some of these people have insinuated that you're committing fraud. That is, I'm embarrassed for them to you. Like, that is insane. And it sounds like there's a few marketing experts out there too. Come join the board. I agree. Social media could be a much, much better done at Go Lake Havasu. I've been screaming for it. For the last 5 years that I've been on council with some of the past CEOs, not even knowing how to log into Facebook, let alone what the impressions mean. I was very excited when Sean came because I think he does understand it. But if you're out there and you're in the community and you have a knowledge of these things, come work, come do the free work that builds our community. I've been at it for 15 years. We'd love to have you as part of our team.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Moses. Councilmember Lynn, if we just have to wrap it up real
got
quick.
it.
Yes.
I got it. I just want to state that it isn't ridiculous to maybe move away from having its own organization. Kingman, I did my own research. Kingman has their own economic development department, their own director. There's a manager, 2 full staff that are dedicated to tourism and 2 that are dedicated to their visitor center. Their budget is $751,252. Under this, their tourism bureau, their budget is $1.58 million. $580,000 is of salaries. They have some expenses for leases. They have $824,000 for tourism efforts. They do not do any sponsorships. They can do it in-house, and they don't have a separate board, and their money is all accounted for, and it is all under and regulated from their city council, which is under who supervises their city manager. And that is exactly how they run it in Kingman. I know we're different with tourism, but we can bring it in-house and we can hold more accountability.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start closing down this meeting so we can transition to our other meeting. But a couple of points real quick. There was some conversation about the minutes aren't readily available. There might have been a records request. We don't have the minutes. They're not our meetings, but they are available on the Go Lake Havasu website. The quarterly reports are given to the city every quarter. They are given as part of the accountability of the contract. Councilmember Moses, you had mentioned that the tourism dollars. So when it comes to bed tax dollars alone, over $2 million, or about $2,091,000, excuse me, is what the bed tax dollars went, and we pay 1.6. And then to your point, Councilmember Lynn, the budget for Kingman, the city of Kingman, is about 1.58, very close to our 1.6, and they do no event sponsorship. So we are doing event sponsorship as well as running tourism destination. But we'll have more to conversation. Once again, thank you to all of the community members that joined us. Thank you for engaging the conversation. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you to the board of directors for Go Lake Havasu for your service. And we will now transition to our next meeting. We are adjourned.